Hello, you guys. This is your boy Grayling Presley II coming to you, author of No Disrespect Sister, But I Wanna Be Happy, which is available on Amazon.com. You can just type in my name, Grayling Presley II, or you can go to Amazon and type in No Disrespect Sister. That's Sista. No Disrespect Sister, But I Wanna Be Happy. Talking about black relationships. It was a good book. Still selling to this date. So go ahead and check that out before I get started. But anyway, I'm just on here today to talk about Jesse L. Peterson, the Reverend that you see fighting, the black Reverend that you see out here fighting for white supremacy. He's a big advocate of white supremacy. He's a big advocate of white nationalism, and he tries to put it under the guise of black empowerment. But as we all know of Jesse L. Peterson, he has a mind state that subscribes to. Actually, he has a mind state that subscribes to the view of black people being evil, black people being immoral. He says that we don't make good fathers, black women don't make good mothers. He feels like we're all robbers and criminals and we should look up to white people to help civilize us. In fact, he has said on multiple occasions, and you can pull this up on YouTube, most of you already know it. He has said that we should be thanking God for slavery, thanking God that even though it was a rough road, not only see how torture and being burnt alive and being chopped up and tarred and feathered for 400 years and whipped to the point of death in some cases. I don't see how you consider that a rough road. But in any case, he feels like although it was a rough road, the path to freedom was worth it. He said we should be thanking God. You can look this up. Jesse L. Peterson says that you should be thanking God that white Europeans took us out of our uncivilized state, refined us, cultivated us, and made us who we are today. He said, thank God he brought us to this great American country of freedom. Thank God they took us from Africa, is what Jesse L. Peterson says. He's constantly fought for the right, the conservative right, who usually tries to uphold all the agendas and all the personal interests of white supremacy. But I want to tell you guys something today about Reverend Jesse L. Peterson that most of you guys might not know. He has a mental disability. He has a mental disability. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm not a doctor. I don't purport to be a doctor. I haven't seen any certificates from any doctors, any hospitals, any documents that can physically prove my point of view. But I just want to let you guys know that if you have any type of observational skills or any keen sense of judgment whatsoever in human nature, body language, expressions, tones, inflections of voice, eye contact, which comes under the umbrella of body language, you can see very clearly and hear in his voice, in his tone, in his expressions and body language that he's slow. This man has a mental disability in which white right-wing conservatives tend to exploit. Let's not get it misunderstood. White ring nationalists on the conservative side, they understand that Reverend Jesse, well, he's not a reverend, but Mr. Peterson has a mental problem, and they choose to exploit it all the time. On Fox News, which is a white supremacist news network, which we all know, they utilize his disability in a way in which upholds their narrow view of black life and white superiority. Let me tell you something about autism. It is very well documented that if you want to know if your child has autism, children can't speak. They can't express through verbal communication whether they're hungry or whether they're in pain or things of that nature. When you're a newborn, in between the age of a firstborn child or possibly 2 years old, a lot of times we have to look at children's body language to diagnose them with childhood illnesses or childhood mental disorders. And autism is one of those things where it's been very well documented that eye contact and body language and attention span is one of those keys to recognizing the signs and symptoms of autism in children. When you can't look somebody directly in their eye and you're talking, you're saying, how you doing? Or adults that can't look at you, or they're looking down while they're talking to you, they're looking to the side, or they're looking at birds, or they're looking at movements in the back. A lot of times, well, the majority of the times when you're a child, those kind of signs start early. We can see it. It's acute in adults. It's very highly recognizable in adults. It doesn't take a lot to notice when an adult is slow, because by the time you're an adult, the contrast between regular thinking people and childlike thought and speech patterns, the contrast is very acute, it's very clear. But unlike adults, children have baby type characteristics. In all babies, they have baby and toddler and newborn characteristics. The motor skills look the same. The speech pattern hasn't developed yet. So it's hard sometimes to tell whether or not your child has autism. So you have to look at subtle signs that go beyond just the basic characteristics of newborn children, which is eye contact, things of that nature. The whole point of me saying that is that just as you can look and judge, if you know the signs, you can judge a little baby without having a degree to be any type of child physician or to be any type of child psychiatrist. They tell regular people to pay attention to these signs so that regular people can build up a keen sense of judgment and be able to tell their child or somebody else's child needs to be checked out and possibly diagnosed with autism. The same can be said about people like Jesse Peterson. When you look at his eye contact, when you look at his speech patterns, when you assess his thought patterns, when you assess the outlandish, incomprehensible things that he says, one can only surmise that he's not in his right mind. When he says that black people are criminals and immoral and we need to be civilized, if you had that type of point of view and you didn't have and you have the case to support it that Jesse L. Peterson brings to the table, it's a little different than a white supremacist who comes with these pseudo-scientific facts about brain size being smaller and us passing less IQ tests and having a less percentage on our score, even though none of that is the truth. My point is, at least with some of these so-called scholarly white supremacists, they come with some type of documented facts, whether it's a falsified source or an unaccredited source. They're still coming with something. Jesse Peterson only comes with crazy opinions and unthought out support for his cases that we are the way we are. He is openly fought for white supremacy. This guy says that, what was one of the things he said? I want to get this right. He has said that, here's a good one. Racism doesn't exist. Now, these are the types of things that I'm saying that even the most steadfast supporter and advocate of white supremacy, speaking from a black standpoint, Even a black person with the most steadfast, devout commitment to upholding white supremacy and all their racist rhetoric would have to concede to the fact that racism exists. They would have to at least concede before coming with their argument. They would have to at least concede to what we already know. First, we need to establish what we already know before you deliver a counterpoint or I deliver a counterpoint. We have to first come to the table and agree on the well-established facts, which is that racism has existed. First of all, it was founded. This country was founded on the fundamental precepts of slavery, oppression, rape, murder, and the likes. So to deny the past, to deny that this country was founded on those principles, those fundamental principles of oppression and rape and thievery, okay, and lies. To deny that is to deny basic common sense and to deny basic mental health. We all know that racism exists. I don't care how much in denial, how much you're willing to be a martyr for the white supremacist agenda. You make it obvious that something is wrong with your mind when you say that the word racism is a fake word and racism doesn't exist. We know that Jim Crow exists. We know that lynching, legalized lynching exists. We as human beings, black, white, black nationalists, white nationalists, no matter what side of the fence you're on, we all understand that racism exists. We all understand this. So to deny facts like that is to deny that 2 + 2 = 4, or to deny that DAD spells dad, or to deny that when you go out in the rain, you get wet. If you say, well, I've never gotten wet in rain before. I've never experienced getting wet in the rain. Every time I go out in the rain, I stay dry. I've never experienced wetness in the rain. That's a clear sign that something about your brain is not calibrated correctly. Somewhere along the line, your elevator is far from the top floor. It's still on the bottom floor. Something's not developing right. So when you say that racism doesn't exist, and I've never experienced racism, and that word is a fake word that represents something that has never been in existence, there's something quite wrong with you. But again, it's more than just what he says. It's the body language. You can tell when Reverend Jesse L. Peterson talks that he's not all the way there with you mentally. You can tell that he's, and pardon this politically incorrect term, but you can tell that on a certain level that he has a slight case of mental retardation. You can tell, and I'm not trying to be funny. I'm assessing this from a serious point of view. Jesse L. Williams has a handicap, and media sources like Fox News and other right-wing conservative media sources, as well as white individual media sources that may interview him on YouTube, whatever source chooses to use him as a platform for their white supremacist agenda, they understand very well about his mental handicap. That's why they don't choose just any pro-white or conservative black. You can't put any white Republican on a national stage. You can't just put any black Republican on CNN or Fox News, even though CNN is a little bit more neutral. But still, you won't find a lot of those right-wing media sources using your everyday black Republican, because your everyday black Republican, although he's conservative and usually sides with a lot of things that are normally in white people's interests, they will not go that far to the extreme to the point where they will deny that racism exists. So you have to deliberately seek out somebody with a fragmented mind that's so bad and so severe that they will be a martyr for white supremacy, literally be a martyr for white supremacy. And when you go to that extreme, when you're willing to sell your soul to uphold white supremacy, that's hard to find even in a black Republican. So you have to search out somebody where you recognize, hey, that person right there, he's not right. That's the perfect person for our platform as a black person to help us spread our white supremacist rhetoric. That's the perfect person. We need somebody that's that far off mentally, that's that mentally impaired, where it goes beyond the conservative black Republican viewpoint to the point where you fight fervently and not just fervently, but when a white person sees somebody like Jesse L. Peterson, they see somebody that's willing to go to the extent of what's the word I'm looking for? I'm losing my train of thought. Jesse L. Peterson is willing to humiliate himself and go on rants that are just preposterous. That's the level that he's willing to go to uphold white supremacy, to the point where he just sounds ridiculous, and there's no way he can explain himself out of stuff like this. And he's never brought facts to the table. One time he was on the Young Turks getting interviewed, and this man said most blacks are on welfare. Most blacks aren't working. And I forget the guy's name that interviewed him on the Young Turks, but this guy said, no, they're not. Statistically, most black people are working or in school, the overwhelming majority. And then Jesse L. Peterson said, well, no, 15% of blacks are unemployed. Now, first of all, let me say that I don't believe that 15% of blacks are unemployed. I have yet to check it out because I made this video spur of the moment, and I will check that out. But I don't believe it's that high. But let's just say, for argument's sake, it is that high. 15% is not the majority of blacks. That's basic math. So the guy on the Young Turks immediately observed that inconsistency and said, hold on. You just said in one breath most blacks are unemployed and they're out here causing crimes. But then on the other hand, you just said 15% of them are unemployed. That, even though his point was that's the highest unemployment rate, even though that was his point, it contradicts your original point, which is what this guy said on the Young Turk. It contradicts your original point that most blacks are unemployed. Then he proceeded to say to Jesse L. Peterson, do you realize, Mr. Peterson, that 85% means majority? And he kind of insinuated, like, is your math, can you do math? Can you count? Do you realize when you say most people don't work, the 15% doesn't mean most? That's basic math. And again, this goes beyond just a difference of opinion with Jesse L. Peterson. Here's, again, where you have to observe the things that are traits and symptomatic of mental disabilities. This is basic math. So on top of having a mental disability, he's illiterate. He can't count. So this is what happens with Jesse L. Peterson. And I kind of feel sorry for him because, again, the white conservative rights are exploiting this disability and this illiteracy on his part. And it's sad, it's wicked on their part, but it's sad that he has no family members and friends who can come in and get some type of, have some type of medical jurisdiction. Like a, kind of like somebody that has the power of attorney to put their loved one, their elder loved one, in a nursing home when they're not capable of making decisions on their own. Maybe they're suffering from dementia. So now you have power of attorney because now you can take over as for their decision making that they're incapable of doing. It's a shame that somebody in Jesse's camp, family or friend, can't go to a doctor or an attorney or somebody that has the power to not necessarily make the decisions in his life, but at least to diagnose him, so that we can have a more professional diagnosis of him. And that way, from a legal standpoint, we could keep people from Fox News Network and different people who are exploiting that disability from legally being able to exploit him on behalf of the white supremacist community. You know, when you have legal documentation that somebody's mentally retarded, you can't use them as a news network for things that they use Jesse for. So, again, I just want to let people know that Jesse L. Peterson has a mental problem and he's illiterate. And we have to take that into consideration on the black side before criticizing him. And on the white side, before you praise a guy like this, you have to realize that your community, your white extremist community, is using him as a platform to spread white supremacist bullshit. So I just wanted to let everybody know. And eventually, I plan to eventually go on different radio shows and hopefully different television shows in the future to further expose this injustice that's going on. But it's a really sad thing. So yeah, so I mean that's where I am right now. And eventually I want this message to spread a little bit more, and it'll probably take some time to get this ball rolling, because things take time to snowball. I'm not trying to be any YouTube star or anything like that. I've already got a book that has sold. I'm already working on another book that hopefully will do better than my last book. I've already been a television personality, so YouTube is not something that I'm not trying to be this overnight YouTube sensation, but I do want to put out this message to people that Jesse L. Peterson is not to be taken seriously. This is not what he truly believes. He's a puppet for white supremacy, and he's not altogether in his right mind. You know, there's retarded people that you could convince the world is flat because they're retarded. Maybe in their mind, having that mental disability, they might really believe the world is flat. They really might believe that. But the doctors and the family understand that it's his mental disability that's keeping him from seeing the world and education, the education about the world being what it is, which is that the world is round. It's the mental disability, whether he believes it or not, that is keeping him from being able to think critically and have his own personal ideas and create his own create his own thoughts and his own judgments as to what's real and what's not. When you're mentally retarded, you can't formulate your own thoughts. You can't be on a conscious level of critical thinking, because that's what the whole disability does to you. It stumps you at a certain point. Your mind stops evolving, and you can't think on the same level as other people that can formulate ideas and think critically for themselves. And so again, take it easy on Jesse, because he has a disability, and I want everybody to know that, so that you can stop believing his rhetoric. The black community can stop criticizing him as much as they do. I know it's bad for us, but we have to look at it for what it is from the black community. And also, I want to get this out. Eventually, I want to start a movement, not just on Jesse L. Peterson, but I kind of want to start a movement of kind of allowing people, white and black, purple, green, Hispanic, whatever. I want to start a movement where we can start to look at clues and start to look at signs and symptoms of people like Jesse L. Peterson, so that we can start to recognize it before the rhetoric and the propaganda takes effect on American minds, white and black. Because if we can recognize that people like this are disabled, we can protest against stuff like this and have news networks like Fox News barred or banned from utilizing mentally retarded people to exploit their agendas. This can be a reality if we first, as a community of people, black and white, recognize the signs and symptoms of mental disabilities. Okay, this can be achieved, and they can stop you. All these white supremacist networks like Fox News and the likes can stop utilizing people like Jesse L. Williams if we first get people like that exposed for who they are from a legally or from a medical standpoint. If we can get them recognized as a psychiatric liability, then we can expose people like this. So this isn't just for Jesse L. Peterson. This is for people that may or may not be on these interviews and not be all there. It may be more out here like Jesse L. Peterson, but I just wanted to bring attention that Jesse is not all there. He's not all there. Whites know it. The white people behind the scenes know it. That's why they put them on the show, because they're exploiting that disability. But the rest of us don't know it. And that's why their rhetoric on those news networks are working, because they know that we don't understand Jesse's disability. So it looks real. It looks like you have this critically thinking, this this pseudo-intelligent guy that's deliberately trying to uphold the agendas and the interests of the white conservatives, but it's not like that. It's not like that. And we got to get the word out. Be able to recognize the people with disabilities who are being used by Fox News and other right-wing conservative networks. We have to start recognizing, so that it will no longer work for them. That's the whole purpose for this video. So that will no longer work for them. So I know this is a spur of the moment video. Thank you for listening. And eventually I want to get on a bigger platform. And I'm sure I've been talking to some people that feel exactly like I do, that are going to reach out and help me slowly gain a little mass exposure on this issue, along with other stuff, but I'll talk a little bit more about that at a later date. Until then, you guys have a great day. Thanks for listening.